Thank you, Toby. When Toby asked me to come along and talk about gamification, the first thing I said to him, I said, well, actually, in the enterprise, we don't talk about gamification because people get confused. So it doesn't work. As soon as you talk about gamification, people are lost. So I just wanted to put that out there. What I'm actually going to talk about is behaviour change. It's the same thing, and I'll come on to that. So, just rewind. Toby said that some of you guys wanted to know what gamification was. So this is the Wikipedia definition. It's the application of game thinking, game mechanics, and in non-game environments. So what does that mean? Well, points and badges really. It's the application of game mechanics to gamify activities or processes, which in turn drives engagement up on on platforms, etc. But gamification is only part of what we talk about when we talk about it in the enterprise. So, game mechanics, absolutely, badges, points, rewarding people for doing things that we want them to do. But there are other elements that are at play here. Social mechanics. A lot of you have heard about the term social enterprise, the introduction of yammers and jives, and all of these products and tools are entering the enterprise. So there's a lot around social mechanics. And then reputation mechanics as well. Help me find the employee who knows the most about something. It's a big problem in enterprise. I've got all these people all over the world, but who knows the most about this particular topic? And what enterprise gamification allows us to do is to gamify that process of finding who our experts are. So we talk about clout and cred. These are measures of your knowledge or influence in particular topics, where what we're doing is applying that in the enterprise as well. So, what role does it have? Well, so for us in Capgemini, actually, we have a social network. We use Yammer. But actually, what I find myself doing is actually helping answer client questions a lot. A lot of my clients come to me and say, how can I get my customers to do stuff for me? I've heard about things going viral, but I've not got enough staff for it to go viral. How can I get my customers to do that? I'm losing market share. How can I get more ideas in my company? I need some innovation. I bought an e-learning tool. It was meant to help me get all my staff educated, but no one's using it. What can I do? So what we go in is help them understand how gamification or game mechanics, social mechanics and reputation mechanics can help drive that engagement. So I've devised a very simple model. There's 3 areas that typically come up. Around collaboration, I want my staff to work closer together and do stuff. I need some new ideas, so innovation. And I want them to learn stuff on their own. So those are the 3 areas. And what I've done is I've pulled out some examples of where this is happening, just so that you can sort of start to bring it to life. But before I do that, does anyone have any questions on gamification at this stage? I'm assuming silence means no. All right, so collaboration then. So a couple of examples. Samsung, they're a massive challenge. Everyone's got these iPhones and Samsung Galaxies, and everyone registers your iPhone as soon as you buy it. But Samsung recognised that no one's really incentivized to register their Samsung device with Samsung. So what they created was Samsung Nation, and the game mechanics that they've used. So in gamification we talk about missions and rewards. So what they did is they created missions, which are, if you register a product, we will give you 500 points. Now the motivation is there's no extrinsic rewards in this, it's all intrinsic. And what I mean by that is you're only rewarded with being on the home page of the Samsung website. And for quite a lot of people that is a nice thing to have, because it increases my profile. So as a result of this, I think they had a 260% increase within 4 weeks of people registering their devices with Samsung. It's only in the States at the moment. That's an example of getting people to do stuff and collaborate with companies. Universal Music Group, they're the same. They manage lots of brands or artists all over the world, but nobody really goes and interacts with the artists themselves. So we know about Universal, but we don't know much about the artists. So what Universal did was, again, they applied game mechanics and reputation mechanics, again, onto the profile pages of each one of their artists to encourage engagement with each artist. So come and ask somebody a question, register, like their Facebook page, tweet about them. So again, driving up that engagement with particular brands. We talk a lot about gamification, but sometimes it's not always needed. And I had to get this example in. So within Capgemini, we've actually got one of the largest engaged Yammer networks in the world. We've not used any game mechanics whatsoever, but what is important in it is the reputation and social mechanics. One of the best business cases we've got is when salespeople go into the sales room and they say, and the client will say to us, do you have IBM WebSphere developers? Now, in a 130,000 people organisation, to be able to answer that confidently, sometimes may not, and the HR systems might not always be up to date, but one thing we can be certain of is, if you put it out onto Yammer, you've got about 50,000 people who are on Yammer, and you will find the person who knows, who does have that skill. And we've got lots of business cases where we've actually proved this to work, and we've won deals and we've won projects off the back of doing things like that. And this is just an overview of some of the statistics. I mean, last week we had 9,000 active engaged users, which is roughly 25% of our entire network using a particular collaboration tool. So that's collaboration. So the second area I talked about was innovation. Help me get some new ideas. So Starbucks created an innovation platform to get its loyal customer base to come up with new ideas. Again, using social rewards, they encourage people to share ideas, then they get the community to vote on those ideas, and the ones that get the most votes, they then actually go and deliver. So they go and make them happen. So there's no extrinsic reward other than I was the one who's come up with that idea. So it's all about intrinsic rewards. Similarly, Scottish Water, again in the enterprise, they said we've got lots of people in our business, but we don't know how to get some new ideas. We're getting pressure from the regulators. Help us come up with some new ideas. Now, as a consultancy or as a technology firm, we can't give them ideas. We can help them, but we can't give them the ideas. But what we say is, the people in your business have the ideas. So we help them build a platform that allows them to essentially crowdsource, and we added in some game mechanics. So again, we put in some some leaderboards. Not leaderboard, it's a real one. Put some leaderboards in, so who's getting the most votes, who's contributing the most, who has the highest reputation. So again, they've come up with 750 new ideas, of which 7 of them they've then gone ahead and actually delivered. So it's having real business benefit to them. Again, similarly, AT&T, this is done on Spigot, which Capgemini has a global partnership with as well. Again, we've got AT&T looked at their employee base and went, all our employees are actually customers as well. How do we get some of their ideas to make our business better? And again, we created the innovation pipeline, where people suggest the ideas, everyone votes and comes up with different ideas, and then they go ahead and do the ones that get the most votes.
Sorry, Scott, can I just ask one question? Sure. What was the impetus for people to contribute? I mean, I think you mentioned earlier there needs to be some kind of, I don't know if it's a financial incentivization or if it's the pure recognition, or I mean, yeah. What was it that people want to achieve by contributing?
So all of these, all 3 of these examples are all built purely on intrinsic reward, which is a level of status within the organisation. So in every one of these, behind all of these was a big massive communications program. So we elevated the person who came up with the idea and kind of showcased them as the one who came up with it. That's all that was involved. There was no money involved, there was no iPads or Xboxes. Pure intrinsic motivation. So it's association of being the person who has ideas. So that was and I suppose that as a human, it's fundamental human behaviour to want to be rewarded through status as opposed to an extrinsic reward.
Can I just ask one more thing?
Yeah.
With these systems on innovation, how far do you go down that path of taking it? Is it just to idea, or are you actually trying to build a process about then, okay, we've got an idea, build a business case, then implement it, or are you just looking at the idea?
Us as Capgemini. So with our clients, we will manage it end to end. So we'll go ahead and help them identify. So when we go in, we get the business challenge, which is I need to get some new innovation. And one of the things that we bring is the Spigot tool, or another tool in some other situations, and we'll help them, and then we'll build the processes that help them do that kind of going forward as well. So they can then manage their own innovation process when we then go away again.
So I was going through this. I did this about 10 years ago in case and we had loads of ideas. People had the ideas, had no idea how to turn that to business case, and came from my stage, oh, okay, it's wonderful ideas, don't know what to do with it now.
Yeah, so we will help them create a process that helps them then deliver those ideas as well. So that's kind of what we call is within Capgemini we talk about digital transformation, but it's transforming to the power of digital as opposed to giving all your staff iPads and giving them new fancy machines. Actually, what it's about is transforming your business processes so that you're more agile and you're flexible to then go and deliver those things. So that's typically where our engagements kind of go as well. Is there any other questions on that? Or? Okay. And then the final thing was around learning. So I've invested heavily in an e-learning platform, but no one's using it. I've not done any projects in this space, but I'll give you some examples of where it's being used. Khan Academy uses game mechanics in order to drive people through learning programs. So what it does is you go on. As you know, Khan Academy is essentially just a collection of YouTube videos that somebody educates you on a particular topic, and you can jump about. And what Khan Academy found was that people were going in at lesson 1, it was too easy, and then jumping straight to lesson 30 and not really understanding it because there was pre-learning that had happened before. So they employed game mechanics in order to drive people through a leveled learning experience. So in order to get to level 5, you had to unlock level 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it drove people through a particular learning path. And this is some of the insight that we're now taking to our clients as well to help them understand how they can better utilise some of the e-learning platforms that they've used. Going slightly off piece, and actually Siemens created a game called Plantville. Now this was a simulation game, so this is slightly away from gamification, but it adds a lot of game mechanics in order to drive people to participate in a game-like scenario that was modelled around what it's like to run a particular plant. So this particular example is around a manufacturing plant of hardware, and what they did was they encouraged new hires or aspiring want-to-be plant managers to get involved in the game and start to experience what it was like to run a plant. And then the Swedish National Road Society for Road Safety, they did something completely different with gamification, but still implied a lot of the things. But they rewarded people for being compliant, as opposed to what we do in this country, which is punishing you for not being compliant. So what they did was they rewarded everyone who was compliant with the speed limit with an entry into a lottery, which for those who were not compliant, what they did was 10% of their salary. 10% of your salary was your fine. So if you were caught speeding, 10% of your salary went into the pot. Those who were compliant then went into a lottery to win the pot of money. So adding quite a few layers of game mechanics, but at the same time,
How do they know who's who?
so it scans your registration plate. So every time you drive past, there's a video actually, if you Google it, Swedish speed camera lottery, but essentially the speed camera here captures everybody's registration plate. As long as you're within the speed limit, you get an entry. So what you could literally do is you could drive around that street all day to get lots and lots of entries. But so that as I say, using those mechanics, it reduced speeding fines by about 22%, So, you know, it's proven to have worked. So those are some examples of using enterprise gamification, as we call it. So just a few things, and these are things I always take to my clients, because it all sounds great, and it all sounds, yes, this is exactly what I want. But there are always things to consider. So whilst social is an opportunity to bring the customer closer together with your organisation and leverage them to help you, the other thing is enterprise democracy no longer exists. So the person at the top is not always the person who knows the most, and in fact, it's more often than not the actual situation. It's somebody who's considered to be junior in the traditional hierarchy of an organisation, actually maybe your expert. There was a great example within Capgemini, actually. Does anyone know Mark Schaefer from the States? So Mark had a perception that one of our UX developers, who's not senior, was the face of Capgemini. Now, Capgemini itself is a global organisation with 130,000 people, but one individual person who's a UX designer who just kind of tweeted, went about his day job, doing his own thing, was the face of Capgemini. Now, that's a lot of responsibility for somebody who's not been on the management leadership course. And our communications team, when Mark came and he presented to us, our communications team kind of went, uh-oh, that's a problem for us. But rather than kind of squash it, like what a lot of organisations are trying to do at the moment, we actually harnessed that, and we've actually now started to create what we call an an experts community, where we surface a lot of our experts within Capgemini and promote them, and rather than sort of telling them, no, you can't, because you're not senior, you can't be the face of our company, what we do is we try and elevate them up and leverage their expertise and their interests as well. So we're trying to lead by example when we come to speaking to clients as well. And then the other thing is, so gamification is not just about game mechanics. There's three things. There's game mechanics, social mechanics, and reputation mechanics. And depending on the situation, you will need to employ more or less of one or two of those mechanics at any particular time.